The history of Mott's nursing home actually begins in the wake of World War II. In 1946, Congress passed the Hill-Burton Act to encourage hospital construction. Grants and cheap loans were widely and easily available. Small communities all over America jumped at the chance. Among those taking advantage were the communities of Hettinger, Lemon, Elgin, and Richardson. Mott, however, opted on principle to shun the federal largesse and fund its hospitals with money raised locally. But woe, the private money ran out, and the city was left with a concrete structure only 70% complete. It was located where Les and Nadine Swindler now have their new home. For years, the building stood vacant. In 1955, the town's leaders decided to repurpose it into a nursing home. That alternative proved successful, and a 40-bed custodial care facility opened in July of 1957. It provided care for the elderly and handicapped. It was managed by the Evangelical Lutheran Good Samaritan Society, founded in Arthur, North Dakota in 1922 by Pastor August "Dad" Hoger. The society grew steadily in the following years to become the nation's largest chain of homes for the aged and infirm, managing more than 200 homes. After a decade and a half, Mott saw the need for an expanded modern facility and contracted with the Good Samaritan Society to manage it. The community raised $100,000 towards the estimated $750,000 cost. Good Samaritan provided the rest of the funds. Earth moving began in 1974 on a 3-acre site on the town's east side, which was acquired from Clyde and Helen Swindler. The Mott Good Samaritan Center opened in July of 1975 as an intermediate care center. The venture was promoted by a committee led by optometrist Dr. Jack Kramer. Other members were Dean Johnson, Dick Halverson, Ed Vukulik, Charles Crane, Dr. Robert Hankins, Ben Oline, Wayne Bush, Marge Fries, Bob Carvel, Frank Massad, Muggs Maercklein, Tom Tupa, and Bob Marthaler. Support for the non-denominational nursing center was overwhelming, said Kramer. It marks over 10 years of discussion, planning, setback, and fulfillment. At the dedication and grand opening in September of 1975, Kramer explained the rationale for the new structure. The idea of an adequate nursing facility originated for several reasons, including that the existing home did not meet the rules and regulations that had been passed. Homes at the time were filled to capacity. The number of senior citizens was increasing, and there was the realization that senior citizens should have a place where they could stay and remain part of the community that they helped build. The first residents were Eva Mayer, Della Wansvik, and Isabel Wynandi. Just 6 months after opening, the 60-bed facility was filled. In addition, the old facility, called the West Center, continued operating as a custodial facility, also at its capacity of 40 beds. There were 50 employees, including Administrator Olga Christensen and Nursing Director Marge Fries. An advisory board was formed consisting of Christensen, Jack Kramer, Pete Kandrian, Adeline Carvel, the Reverend Henry Goldsack, Dean Johnson, Bob Marthaler, Frank Mayer, Emanuel Schmidt, and Ramona Swindler. The community was enormously supportive. Citizens volunteered to entertain residents, act as hairstylists, raise operating funds, and perform other assistance. After 13 years, Olga Christensen stepped down as administrator and was replaced in 1988 by Millie Waddell. Although the initial concept was that the facility would largely serve the Mott area, residents were soon coming from all over southwest North Dakota and beyond. The West Center finally closed in 1987. It had been operating at a loss, even though it still had 31 residents. In October of 1990, because of tightening federal requirements, the home was upgraded to a skilled nursing home. This required some renovation and additions, which cost close to $1 million. Added were a physical therapy room, handicapped accessible bathrooms, a new kitchen and laundry, and a larger dining room. In 1996, Bruce Collis succeeded Millie Waddell as the administrator. Before that, he was the home's director of the physical plant. In 2002, some skilled beds were converted to basic care, so the home could provide a continuum of care to those in the community not yet needing skilled services, but still requiring help with the activities of daily living. In response to changing demographics and the needs of residents, in 2009, Good Samaritan reduced the number of skilled beds and created some skilled private rooms. Bruce managed the home until 2016, when he was succeeded by Helen Wichman, who held the position until this year. In 2019, Sanford Medical acquired the Good Samaritan Society and all of its facilities. Thereafter, Good Samaritan continued to own and manage the Mott home, but under the control of Sanford. 2020, the first year of the COVID pandemic, was devastating to the operations of the nursing home. Residents were quarantined and isolated from their loved ones. The staffing problem became even more acute. Then, in June of 2022, came the shocking announcement.
Families in the Mott area have less than 60 days to move their loved ones to a new senior care home. Good Samaritan Society Mott is closing its doors in July. Sarah Berlinger explains why and how residents feel about the change.
Mott resident Darwin Mayer has a lot more on his mind than just planting crops. His parents stay at the town's only nursing home that just announced it's shutting down after more than 50 years in the community.
They won't feel a part of this community anymore, which I think is the sad part.
Mayor says Good Samaritan Society Mott met with families about the closure and provided a list of the closest nursing homes. Its executive director, Phil Samuelson, said in a statement that the pandemic has put stress on the senior care industry. The statement adds that staffing challenges, a decline in residents, and increased operating costs also contributed to the decision. Good Samaritan Society joined Sanford Health in 2019.
It's a blow. I mean, we got to figure out what our next step is, because we can't afford to lose any more people or businesses in our community.
Mott's mayor says although the city wants to keep the building as a nursing home, they were informed in a meeting with Samuelson that it's being put up for sale, and there will be a clause stating it can't be used for health care.
This is now how I expect them to treat a small community.
But the city refused to accept that outcome, and with the help of many friends working behind the scenes, Sanford relented. Among other concessions, the city received a deed to the facility. With no time to lose, a steering committee was formed and a meeting held on July 22nd at the nursing home. Present were committee members David Crane, Don Scheible, Mick Wansvik, Troy Musbrecher, Charlotte Aldinger, Pam Steike, Gene Steiner, Linda Lindeman, Jody Moore, and Dean Wary, as well as Shelley Peterson from the North Dakota Long-Term Care Association. Also present via Zoom were representatives from the state of North Dakota and consultants from HMS, a health facilities and management firm from Billings, Montana. Prior to the meeting, the city had commissioned a consultant from Eide Bailey in Fargo to do a preliminary feasibility study for reopening as a skilled nursing home. The initial projections showed feasibility for a 29-bed skilled facility with 7 basic beds. Armed with that information, the committee announced its intention to have a skilled nursing home up and operating by January 1, 2023. We were quickly advised, however, that such a goal was a tad ambitious. Skilled facilities have 2 layers of regulation and licensing, state and federal. Before a skilled facility can get Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, it must first get something called MAC certified first, and then pursue state licensure. This is an arduous process. Getting this done by January 1 is very doubtful. Essentially, the new operation must admit only private pay residents until certification is obtained. Basic care does not need 24/7 nursing. But skilled nursing does require 24/7 nursing. Any business plan for a skilled facility must provide for upfront operational funds to pay personnel before certification. In other words, you must be in business before you can pursue certification. We were told to look at other alternatives in place of or in addition to a skilled facility. These are independent senior living, assisted living, and basic care. Compared to a skilled facility, getting a basic care facility licensed is much easier. What is required in general terms: state licensure, policies and procedures, safety code, an administrator, and 1 contract RN. Staffing will be the biggest challenge, both for nurses and CNAs. We were advised that the probability of regaining former employees decreases over time. Only 2 out of 5 will return after 60 to 90 days. How to attract good nurses: $35 per hour plus good benefits. The median salary for CNAs is $20 per hour. Benefits probably need to be 27 to 33% of salary. Carl Ruud, the consultant from HMS, said you can be competitive by being creative. Sanford Good Sam took all the licensed beds with them. This means we will have to buy licensed beds, but that shouldn't be a problem. They probably are available for less than $5,000 per bed. Presently, there are 580 beds on layaway statewide. How hard will it be to fill the beds? The community needs to do a survey. Otherwise, it is based on rules of thumb, namely 3% of the population over 65. Carl Ruud said it will be tough to get 30 residents, more likely 17, which is a rough guess. Despite these daunting challenges, the committee concluded it was still reasonable to pursue a skilled nursing facility at some scale. However, it will have to be diversified. The precise model is yet to be determined, but all options are on the table: assisted living, basic care, skilled care. We are discussing with West River the possibility of moving its clinic into the North Wing. But how much will all this cost? In round numbers, $1 million. Where will the money come from? Local donations, city sales tax, and grants. What is our path to success? Actually, there are multiple paths or tracks. Some are in sequence, but most will need to progress at the same time and in coordination. This should give us an idea of what is before us. Organization of the nonprofit entity and getting tax-exempt status, raising capital, business plan development, building renovation, securing basic care licensure, securing skilled care licensure, and finally the start of operations. Can all this be done in 12 months? We shall see. But one thing we know for sure, we're going to need professional help. At this point, we should pause and ask, what are our resources? Here we can draw inspiration from The Princess Bride, perhaps the greatest movie of all time. The scene we are about to watch is right after the hero, Wesley, spelled with a T, who is mostly dead after being tortured by Count Rugon, has been given a magic pill made by Maercklein. He is now conscious, but mostly paralyzed. His friends, Fezzik, played by Andre the Giant, and Inigo Montoya, the renowned swordsman seeking revenge against Count Rugon, want to join forces with Wesley and storm the castle to save Wesley's true love, Princess Buttercup. The evil Prince Humperdinck intends to marry Buttercup and then murder her to start a war with the neighboring country of Gilder.
How long do we have to wait before we know the miracle works?
Your guess is as good as mine.
I'll beat you apart. I'll take you both together.
I guess not very long.
Why won't my arms move?
You've been mostly dead all day.
We have Miracle Max make a pill to bring you back.
Who are you? Are we enemies? Why am I on this wall? Where's Buttercup?
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. Buttercup is marrying Humperdinck in a little less than half an hour. So all we have to do is get in, break up the wedding, steal the princess, make our escape. After I kill Count Rugen.
There doesn't leave much time for dilly-dallying.
You just wiggle your finger. That's wonderful.
I've always been a quick healer. What are our liabilities?
There is but one working Castle Gate. Come on. And it is guarded by 60 men.
And our assets?
Your brains. Fezz's strength. I steal.
That's it? Impossible. If I had a month to plan, maybe I could come up with something but this.
You just shook your head. That doesn't make you happy?
My brains, his steel, and your strength against 60 men, and you think a little head jiggle is supposed to make me happy?
I mean, if we only had a wheelbarrow, that would be something.
Where do we put that wheelbarrow of the albino head?
Over the albino, I think.
Why didn't you list that among our assets in the first place? What I wouldn't give for a Holocaust cloak.
There we cannot help you.
With this door?
How did you get that?
At Miracle Max's. It fits so nice I could keep it.
All right. Come on, help me out. Now, I'll need a sword eventually.
Why? You can't even lift one.
True, but that's hardly common knowledge, is it? Thank you. Now, there may be problems once we're inside.
I'll say. How do I find the Count? Once I do, how do I find you again? Once I find you again, how do I escape?
Don't pester. It's had a hard day.
Right. Sorry?
Like our heroes in the movie, we too must face our own brute squad. Pitiless economic, demographic, and corporate forces, government regulations, and so on. But when we band together to pursue our goal, when each contributes his or her own gifts, your brains, physic strength, my steel, who knows what we can accomplish? Unlike our heroes in the movie, and unlike our predecessors who started with nothing, our material assets are substantial. An intact and functioning building, $200,000 of foundation funds, and significant furnishings and equipment, not to mention the resident bus. And in addition, we have our determination and tenacity already demonstrated, as well as our collective imagination. Why should we do this? We can talk about jobs and economic impacts, and these certainly are important. But we know from history that our predecessors saw a need and rose to the occasion. Echoing Dr. Jack Kramer's words at the home's dedication back in 1975, there was the realization that senior citizens should have a place where they could stay and remain part of their community that they helped build. That vision remains true today. There is also the lived experience of residents and staff over 50 years. That's priceless. There are so many noble and heroic people who worked and lived in the nursing home over the decades. All we can do is consider a small sample of poignant memories and people and wisdom gleaned from scrapbooks. First, some memories. After Claude and Norma Height's daughter, Carrie, was injured in an accident, she became a resident of the nursing home until she passed away. Claude would go up every evening to read Anne of Green Gables to her. He often attracted a small crowd, including Charlie Laufel and Bob Vasey, who stood in the doorway and listened to the storytelling. Speaking of Charlie Laufel, a beloved old character, we remember him walking the streets of Mott singing away, and during Mass on Sunday, he would be in the pew echoing the chant of the priest. When Charles Crane entered the nursing home in January of 2014 at the ripe old age of 99, Dr. Brian Willoughby wrote a special prescription: gin and tonic or bourbon, depending on the season, PRN. You see, Charles was accustomed to observing a happy hour every day at 4 o'clock. At first his son David delivered the medicine to his room in a discreet flask, but after a while he just carried a big bottle of gin or bourbon, depending on the season, under his arm. Charles was able to carry on this tradition in the nursing home for another 9 months before he died on September 13, 2014.
Apartment in the city. Me and Loretta like living there. Well, it'd been years since the kids had grown a life of their own and left us alone. John and Linda live in Omaha, and Joe is somewhere on the road. We lost Davy in the Korean War, and I still don't know what for. Don't matter anymore. You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there. Me and Loretta, we don't talk much more. She sits and stares through the back door screen, and all the news just repeats itself like some forgotten dream that we've both seen. Someday I'll go and call up Rudy. We worked together at the factory. What could I say if he asked what's new? Nothing, what's with you? Nothing much to do. You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers grow wilder every day. Old people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there. So if you're walking down the street sometime, spot some hollow ancient eyes, please don't just pass them by and stare as if you didn't care. Say hello